Is Earth a prison planet? Are the archons farming us for Loosh? Well, this is the type of content that I'm inundated with whenever I browse my front page, so I thought I would give the Hyperborean perspective on the matter. And to me, there are Loosh farmers out there, and we will discover who they are, but they are not what you think they are. They're not the archons, okay? It's part of it, but it's not the entire picture. And so, is this Midgard? Is it a prison planet? Are we all being farmed for loosh on the daily? Well, to me, it doesn't seem like this is the optimal setup for loosh farming. And if you don't know what loosh is, basically, loosh is there's two factions. One faction believes that loosh is negative energy being harvested by the archons in order for them to gain power, as we see in this picture here. I just typed in loosh and this is what came up. Okay, I heart loosh. The other faction is that both positive and negative emotions lead to loosh, and this seems to be becoming the dominant faction within the loosh ideology, within the soul trap ideology. And so this is what is the main belief at this point. Now, to me, it doesn't seem like an optimal setup to be both negative and positive for the simple fact that there's a lot of boring interludes on Earth. Okay, if I wanted to be an Archon, if I was the Demiurge, I would set up a lot more optimal loosh harvesting measures. I would min-max my loosh like no one else has min-maxed their loosh harvesting, okay? Like, there's just a lot of parts to life that are boring, and we don't live in the Cenobite realm. If I was the Archon, I would make it like a Cenobite realm. It would just be completely over the top. Now, I think Midgard is more of a middle realm. It's not a heavenly realm. It's not a hell realm. It's in the middle. Hence, the Nordics called it Midgard. It's like a Goldilocks dimension. Not too demented and not too heavenly. But the soul trap, okay, they believe that we need to escape the samsara reincarnation complex, but it's not exactly like Buddhism, because Buddhism also has light side deities, helpful deities, bodhisattvas and whatnot. The Loosh prison planet soul trap folk seem to only really focus on the fact that everything is controlled by archons and the demiurge. And the one thing about Gnosticism that always got me is that, okay, so you will get at how you escape, but basically you can escape is what they tell you, and then you go back to Sophia and you merge back with Sophia and the divine feminine, which to me is extremely sus. I don't want to merge with the feminine. I don't want to have any part in that, okay? But they want us to. Now, to me, it's like, why is Sophia allowing this to happen? Why is Sophia allowing this demiurge freak to run this science experiment called Earth so a bunch of archonic weirdos can harvest us for our loosh? Okay, if Sophia was so inclined to be benevolent, she could just snap her fingers and end the entire thing. Or she could intervene. It's like, if I had a basement that I was renting out to somebody, and I found out that they were experimenting on humans or experimenting on animals, I would barge downstairs and I would thump them. I would thump them until it stopped. But no, Sophia doesn't care. She's indifferent. She's the divine Shekinah of the Kabbalah. And I'm not really a fan of this type of... Okay, it looks like an NPC up here. Now, they tell you that when you die and you see the people who give you your life review, they're going to tell you to go through the white light. Apparently, you don't have to go through the white light. you can actually just tell them, no, I'm not, okay? The entire Loosh harvesting scheme lies on your own consent. And now to me, it's like, that is a massive assumption that they're going to let you escape, okay? Why would they let you do that? If they need you in order to survive, they need your Loosh. They're not just going to let you opt out. To me, anyway, it seems like a huge logical jump to assume that you're just going to not be sucked into the towards the light portal. There's a lot of problems with this whole ideology, and it's being pushed really hard on YouTube. And to me, it's very unhyperborean. We'll get into why, but for that, I think the real Loosh farmers are a lot of the people pushing this stuff. Okay, they benefit from this ideology. They get lots of income, lots of book deals, lots of clout online to say that Midgard is this demonic realm that we're all being harvested on and we have to leave no matter what. It also makes people very detached from the outcome of their own lives because, well, this entire world is a simulation. It's just a Loosh factory. It doesn't really matter what goes on here. We just have to escape. And if we are attached to our loved ones, to our kin, to our bloodlines, then that's actually further entrapping us into this Loosh harvesting system, right? Even loving your family is making you more attached, creating more Loosh. And that's a bad thing. That's just going to make the archons have a bigger feast. So, see a lot of issues with it in my own perspective. And there are real Loosh farmers out there, and they're the Ishtar witches. They admit to it themselves, okay? They have no problem. And at least they do, okay? I have a lot more respect for people who admit to being Loosh harvesters than people who are pretending to be something that they're not. Posing themselves as some sort of helper, some sort of aide, some sort of mystic, some sort of oracle, okay? They're just straight up an Ishtar occultist, right? They got the Saturn. They got the reptilian symbol here. Okay, Star of Ishtar and the ball horns disguised as the moon. And, you know, there's a lot of people like this on X. And she's really good at what she does. She makes a lot of posts that, you know, hit. And they get that Loosh, and she gets that Loosh high, and she gets up boots for it. And she's a very skilled Loosh harvester. I'll give her that. A lot of people are like wannabe at this level and can't be. I've met a lot of people now, and they just straight up tell you what they are. Everything that I've talked about on this channel has been verified by people I've met behind the scenes, behind the stage. Okay, the entire world is a stage, and there's a backstage. What we see at the backstage, the puppet show, and then sometimes you get to see what's going on backstage. And what's going on backstage is there's a lot of Ishtar cultist witches out there who have no problem divulging that that is actually what they believe. And everything that I have brought up on this channel and have examined and decoded is verified out of the horse's mouth. And therefore, nothing that I have thought and felt was going on was false. My intuition was leading me to something that actually was occurring and has been verified. So again, she's straight up about it, but most of them come as angels of light, light workers, light healers, crystal workers. They want to help you, but what they really want to do is they want that sweet, sweet Loosh. Now, the thing about the archons and the Loosh harvesters and the Ishtar witches is if you know anything about the laws of the Hermetics, that there is the principle of polarity. And so everything that is, every vibrational input that is, has a polar opposite. So if there are archons and there are Ishtar Loosh harvesters, that means there is the opposite of that. Okay. There's the opposite of that. And that's the Hyperboreans and Ashtar Command and the Tall Nordics. Now, the Tall Nordics are getting a lot of hate recently online, but we're going to dispel that because the Tall Nordics are based and they're our allies. And if you don't know Hermeticism or the Hermetic principles, I like it. Okay, not all occultism is equal. I'm not a fan of Gnosticism, I'm not a fan of Kabbalah, but if there is one form of Western occultism I do appreciate and I find a lot of truth in, it's the Hermetics. Okay, like not everything, just because it's under an umbrella of a brand, doesn't mean it's the same thing, right? The Gnostics and the Hermetics are very different. Similarly, Folkish pagans and Wiccans are very different. It's like for Catholics out there, there are the pre-Vatican II Catholics, and they see post-Vatican II as a heretical, abnormal cancer of the church. That's kind of how like a folkish pagan would view Wicca. It's like a deviation. It's something that's corrupted from its original primordial axis. We'll just go over it a bit here. So we have the principle of mentalism, the all is mind, the universe is mental. Okay, now I know science tells you that everything is matter and we're just lumps of flesh and blood who emerge out of nothing. And now we just communicate online psychically all day. But I'm here to tell you that it's the mental aspect of the universe that is at the forefront, and then matter is secondary. Okay, and then you have the principle of correspondence. We talked a lot about this before. As above, so below. As below, so above. But what it's talking about here is not above as in the sky. It's talking about higher dimensions and lower dimensions. And that you see this a lot with the language, is that when people are talking about other worlds, when people are talking about above or beyond the firmament, they're not talking about hacking space, bro. They're not talking about science. They're talking about other dimensions. And there's another part of this that's out of this chart here, but it's also as within, so without. Right? Physiognomy, what people look like on the outside and dress on the outside, their profile pictures, the way they talk, the way they text, everything, their thumbnails, even. As they're within, manifesting from the without. And so, how people dress, how people act, how people talk, how people carry themselves, it has to do with their spirit manifesting outwardly into the physical realm. And that is something that's been downplayed in our modern neoliberal world order, is that you have to judge everybody equally and you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, the Hermetic law of correspondence says always judge a book by its cover. That's why symbolism is so important. People will always reveal themselves by the symbols they use, even unconsciously, because as we see with the first principle, everything's matter, everything's mental. Therefore, that seeps down into the correspondence. And so the archetypal Akashic records of everything has a correspondence. Doesn't even matter if they really believe in that symbol or not. If they flash it, it's because they align with it. Then you have the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates, everything is vril, everything is prana, everything's in flux, everything's energy, and it's constantly moving around. Again, nothing's solid. We kind of have a flow going on here. It's all aligning together, all the principles. Back to the principle of polarity. Again, you have left, you have right. Well, you have archons and you have tall Nords. It's just baked into the very fabric of our realm. You have gender. Okay, gender's in everything. Everything either has a masculine or a feminine principle. Genders manifest on all planes. I don't believe in cross-gender incarnation. I do not believe I was a Chinese woman in a previous life. Okay, I've always been a Hyperborean male. I think most people were always their gender. I think you're just kind of stamped with a vibration as soon as your soul manifests, and that sticks with you forever. We're going to talk a bit more about Atman and Atman in a second here. Okay, and we have the principle of rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swings. All right, you have the ages. You have the golden age, the silver age, the bronze age, the iron age. And within, actually, those ages, you have a rhythm. The golden age is masculine. The silver age is feminine. The bronze age represents a fallen masculine, and the iron age that we're in now represents a fallen feminine. So you have these rhythms, you have the tides, you have the seasons. And then you have cause and effect, which is like karma, but not exactly karma. People think karma is like you give a homeless person a penny and then you're blessed by the bodhisattvas. It doesn't really work like that. You could give that homeless person a penny and then he becomes a criminal mastermind from the cause and effect that created. So this goody two shoes version of karma is incorrect. It's more like cause and effect. Now, I obviously think there's honorable and dishonorable actions, and that's going to have a effect on your own or log and your own weird, but we have to get into that on a separate time. Okay, so here are the based and cool archons. Ashtar Command, the Tall Nords. They're getting a lot of hate recently online, but we're going to dispel that. They're here to help. They're here to help, and they have helped. And when you get your vril bar high enough, it's like in a video game. You get your mana bar high enough, and then you can do an ability or a call-in. They're a call-in. Once you get your vril high enough, you can call them in. They're going to give you loot drops. They're going to do what is colloquially known as divine interventions. They're going to help you out. When I die, and I go and get my life review, and I'm surrounded by a bunch of tall Nords, I'm not going to spurg out and try to jump out of the light that they're telling me to go. I'm going to listen to them. It's going to be a different story if they're insectoids or if they're reptilians or if they're demonic looking. I'm probably going to be a bit more wary of what they're telling me. But when I leave this body and I see a bunch of tall Nords telling me what to do, I'm going to listen. Okay, I'm going to comply. I don't know what crystalwind.ca is. Maybe somebody can check that out. But yeah, they're getting a lot of hate recently. But who do you think helped Maria Orsic? They're not from Pleiades because Aldebaran is not part of the Pleiadian system. So they've been around for a long time. And of course, they're not actually from the physical planet Aldebaran. It's more like a portal to their dimension. Okay. So Ashtar Command is based. They're here to help. And if I do disappear, just know that they've taken me under their wing. How do you think this channel got an algo boost? Okay, is the Swiss Templars through Ashtar Command, because they're simply just a proxy of them, gave me a boost. That's how we got to where we are now. Because there's two sides. It's not just one side. It's not just archons, Loosh harvesting us. We got Hyperboreans helping us out. And because we're here for a reason. Now, this video is obviously a lot more advanced than typically it is. Okay, we're going to go really deep into this one, so buckle up. We cannot take credit for our record advancement in certain scientific fields alone. We have been helped. And we have been helped by people of other worlds. Hermann Oberth. Now, Hermann Oberth worked on Third Reich rocket systems. And he's talking about being helped by people from other worlds. So why would I not believe him? Why should I believe in some Redditor when it comes to science? Okay, this is the guy I'm going to believe when it comes to science, not some guy who's trying to Loosh farm for upvoots. He probably knows a lot more about what he's talking about. And yeah, it's because, you know, the Vril Society was getting channeled information from Aldebaran, and it leaked out into the greater scientific apparatus within the Reich. That's how they were flying around in jets while everybody else was still in airplanes. And there's a whole other aspect about how our current understanding of science is completely wrong because it's based off of destruction. Okay, the combustion engine requires destruction to run. It requires explosions to run. And what they were trying, and probably did, and now it's suppressed, what they were developing was positive science, positive engineering, where it was an act of creation, of energy creation, instead of energy consumption that was creating with these engines and what these UFOs, quote unquote, because they weren't actually UFOs, but how they ran. They ran on positive energy creation instead of negative energy destruction. And it's the same for us too. Hyperboreans, we come from a different dimension. We're a lot like Saiyans. It's the reason why this lunar anatma type of spirituality does not align with us. Like, we're spiritual people, but what is it about what we think colloquially that is spiritualism that's like off-putting and kind of cringe and kind of gross? It's because it's pacifistic, it's lunar, it's telluric. You're supposed to, the more peaceful and caring you are, somehow that makes you a higher being, a better person. When in reality, that's like completely against our nature because we have a more solar nature. And what that means is basically we came here from another dimension in order to alchemically transform Earth into Hyperborea. Because we already have conquered many other dimensions. It's the Hyperborean interdimensional Imperium. And that's where we're from. And the reason why you're here playing on Nightmare mode is because you're a first class Hyperborean elite. Okay, you're not a peasant third class who goes to like the easy realm. You're here because you're an elite. And so you come here because it's an act of glory to even arrive on Earth during the Kali Yuga. But of course, we're not the only ones who come here, right? The Lemurians are here. They're taking over. They have more of a vibrational intervention going on in our current state. But all we have to do is keep drilling up, okay? I need more runes being posted, okay? Comment with runic Futhark script below. We're going to up the Hyperborean vibration And it's a feedback loop. The more Hyperborean this plane becomes, the more the Tall Nords can help us, the more loot drops they give us, the more algo boosts they give us. And so it's a feedback loop. So we just have to keep promoting and keep battling on the psychic plane because it is a psychic war. It's way beyond anything in the physical realm at this point. So that's why I don't like the Loosh farming. That's why I don't like the soul trap, because we came here because we are elites, okay? We're first class Saiyan Hyperborean elites. And I understand that some people don't want to be here, and that's fine. And like, I don't even know if I want to come back, to be honest. Like, sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe like this is my due. When I leave, that's it. I'm gonna go somewhere, way better. Hopefully not somewhere way worse. Yeah, people are asking me if I believe in incarnation, what my thoughts were on that and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, I do believe in reincarnation. I don't believe it in the typical way that, like, I don't think I was black or Jewish in a previous life. I think you are whatever you are, and you pretty much stay within that type of energy output, right? Yeah, okay, so like if that is telling me to go to the light, I'm not going to believe it. Okay, bro, go to the light. Grandpa and grandma are waiting for you, dude. Also, your dog Sparky, bro, he's misses you. Just go to the light, bro. Like, dude, they're on the other side. Trust me, bro. Yeah, like if you see that, I'm not taking the bait. I'm not. And yeah, I believe in reincarnation. I don't know if, people think it's a cope or not. I don't know if it's a cope. Because sometimes I think that just nothingness is the better alternative, because it's kind of just like, when you have to wake up and you have to, like, I don't know, do something and you'd rather just sleep. Doesn't just sleeping seem like what you would rather do, but it's kind of baked into the system that you can't do that? Sometimes I just rather sleep, but I feel like, there's just this alarm clock of reality. And that's kind of what incarnation is. Like, you're going to get woken up by that alarm clock at some point, and you're going to have to pay your dues, because it doesn't seem to be avoidable that you can't pay your dues and whatever this is. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is going to be like this forever. I do think that the Atma and Anatma debate, and I think they're both right. I think some people are going to be more Atma, which means you have an internal soul, you have an internal story. I think there are people like that. But I do think that there are people who truly want Anatma. They don't want to have to keep waking up to that alarm clock anymore. And they just want to sleep. And sometimes I don't blame them for that either, because sleeping is really nice. And I think sleeping, there's so many things about this world I like. I really like sleeping. I really like eating. I feel like the archons could have done such a better job of making that unenjoyable. Like, sleeping is just, are they really loose farming me when I'm sleeping? Like, that is creepy. Like, maybe in your nightmares I can see them having like that, but that's not typical. Like, sleeping's typically pleasant. Really, bro? You're gonna loose farm me when I'm sleeping? That's kind of like, these guys are kind of underhanded. Like, why can't you just be straight up and just say, hey, we're loose farming you guys? Like, and maybe that's what they were doing in Egypt. That's why they had all those crazy hybrid entities walking around and statues of them. There was just like an overt loose farming epidemic going on. It was in your face. And then maybe there was too many rebellions, and they had to change up their tactics. And now the loose farming is a lot more covert because they can't afford to keep putting down these rebellions. But I don't know. I feel like if you're that powerful, you would kind of just have this Egyptian-esque civilization going on forever. Who's this girl? I keep seeing this girl too on my feed. And what is she, like an Ishtar witch, the alchemist? Right? It's endless. Like it just seems like they're just auto-generating these people. Like they're just clones. They just auto-generate. I mean, there's just thousands of channels with hundreds of thousands of followers that just seem to exist. And I never heard of these people, but they just keep popping up, and there's more and more of them, and it just never seems to end. What does she say? What's she about? Buddha, myth for Christ. Okay, perennialism. Quetzalcoatl was Christ, bruh. I saw a post like that on X a couple months ago. It was like comparing Quetzalcoatl and Christ. My response was just, this is your brain on perennialism. And I like, of course, a big fan of Avola, but I think his branding of perennialism is a lot different than what's going on with a lot of these types of people, because he's not really that universal with it. It's mostly just from Indo-European cultures, with the exception of some of the Mesoameric civilizations. And I get it. I get why that seems like it corresponds with the greater Indo-European. But I think, and also he's, at this point it's a bit dated, but I think at this point we know enough about that civilization that, to me anyway, it doesn't seem like it corresponds. But that's just me. Just putting that out there. Okay, synchronicity. Anyway, I don't know why. Like they're sucking us in. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know why I'm looking at this person's page. She's not my type at all. So yeah. Anyway. But there was one girl. She was like Russian. Soul Trap. Yeah. This is the real Soul Trap that we need to learn. We need to learn the Skyrim Soul Trap. Right? Like soul trapping familiars. That could be useful. It seems a lot more realistic than soul trapping an entire dimension. But there was one Russian lady, and what she was saying was that she was from a different dimension. It sounded to me like it was like Lemuria or Pleiades. She was that type. Okay. She was that type. And she was just peacefully like picking flowers or whatever in her dimension. And then she got a distress call from Earth that asked her to incarnate to Earth to help raise the vibration there. And then she did, and now she realized that she got rickrolled by the archons, that she shouldn't have gone to Earth because it was a trap the whole time, and that she got trolled. And now she says, when you get into the light, all you have to do is just jump out into the void, and then you'll be safe. Jumping out into the void, to me, it's a bit risky. Okay, you might become disembodied and go back to the primordial totem, become part of that totemic goop that people go back into if they don't develop that solar vertical aspect of their being. Okay, so that's just me. I don't think it's a soul trap. I think it's more like a interdimensional battle. An interdimensional battle for glory and prestige, and we're part of a interdimensional imperium. That's just what I believe. Maybe it resonates with you guys. I think it resonates with a lot more people. It's a lot more congruent with our soul, right? We love to fight. You love to fight, Kakarot! Kakarot! You love the sands. You yearn for the sands. Put sword in hand and fight. Right? Fight, son, fight. Yeah. But now fighting is lame. You know, they made fighting degenerate in its range combat. It's not glorious gladiatorial arenas anymore. So I don't know what to do about that. I think we kind of need to, what we need to do is we need to go full Dune and we need to invent shields that deflect lead and like have like a force field around you so projectiles become useless again. And then that way we can become melee super soldiers once again. That's like the key. Because eventually, you know, the story of Dune is that Paul Atreides essentially bridges the gap and he becomes the male version of a Bene Gesserit, which isn't capable, or wasn't possible before. And eventually, what's going to happen here is that that's going to happen for the Hyperboreans, but instead of one Paul Atreides, it's going to be 100,000 of them. And just so think of the impact that that will have. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.